Okay, the recording is started. Let me just bring up my shared screen. Great, everyone should be able to see the shared screen. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Maybe I get one or two people put in the chat that my audio is okay. I've had some issues earlier today. So maybe if one or two people could at least say yes or no if you hear me or not. Excellent. All right, thank you. Terrific. All right, well, good evening. My name is Darren Lolkema. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Compliance and Information Systems. On behalf of our District Superintendent, Mr. Jose Carrion, we'd like to welcome you to our 5 p.m. session for the Grade 4 Forum for parents on our Wappinger CSD reopening plan. I'll be co-presenting today with our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Dr. Michelle Cardwell. And we're going to walk you through a presentation that will, the goal of which will be to hopefully help families understand the decision-making process we had for starting our school year with remote learning. Certainly to provide answers to some of the most commonly asked questions received from our parent forum survey, as well as to provide an opportunity to ask additional questions based upon what is shared this evening, and or submit any other questions regarding any aspect of the reopening plan that this presentation does not address. So once again, thank you for everyone who participated in the survey. I'm going to get started on the next few slides, and at the end, we should have a couple of minutes to where I can try and answer some of the questions that you have. We're first going to start off with a little bit of information that we received from the State Education Department, some high-level bullets that helped formulate the plan that we posted on our website as well as submitted to the state. And we're going to then follow up with some comments and thoughts from the governor's office, followed by by what our remote and hybrid learning models will look like and the expected timelines for when the students will transition from remote learning to in-class instruction, and then answer a number of questions that were posed from the survey results. So getting started, teaching and learning, these links at the very top of the page when this presentation is posted on our website will be clickable links. You'll be able to read the documents that we are referring to here from the New York State Education Department. But one of the things, as we thought about what our remote learning plan would look like, we had to take into account the fact that teaching and learning, as per state in New York, must ensure, and I'm not going to read them all, but the fourth bullet especially, ensure that there is substantial daily interaction between teachers and students. So that is definitely going to be a focus of our excuse me, that's going to be the focus of our remote learning plan. The state did give us some flexibility with regards to number of minutes. They're saying there'll be flexibility in number of minutes per week for every unit of study. That really refers to a high school course. With regards to the number of minutes per period, we usually do about 230 to 240 minutes per week in a full school week, but the minimum number would be 180. So generally speaking, we do more than 180 minutes per week for every unit of study at the high school. I know that this is a 4th grade session, but it's possible that some of the other grade levels will join this session as well due to convenience. And so I'm definitely going to cover all the information in the slides, but certainly not read them verbatim. They're also providing us flexibility in how we deliver physical education and the allowance for how we deliver, how we provide lab hours for our science experience, science classes at the high school level, as well as our work-based learning opportunities for career and technical education and career exploration. Another big component that the state wants us to focus on is social and emotional well-being. We know that this lengthy amount of time for kids to be outside the classroom and away from their peers and friends, it could be certainly isolating and emotionally draining and dangerous for some of our students to get themselves into a place. I'm sorry, it's been a long day. To get themselves into a healthy place, both socially and emotionally. So we must ensure that our plans include meaningful inclusion of social and emotional learning across all aspects of our curriculum. And that it's very important that we not only provide for physical health, but social and emotional well-being as well. Special education, special guidelines, just to make sure that we are providing all students with a free and appropriate public education. That's the mantra of public education. We certainly strive to have an excellent educational experience, a high quality education experience. But the mantra is free and appropriate public education is the level is what we need to provide for all students, including students with disabilities, and providing any kind of academic supports or accommodations necessary to provide to allow those students to be able to function on grade level with their peers. Attendance and chronic absenteeism is another concern and how do we track attendance with regards to remote learning and hybrid learning? The state says the schools must develop a mechanism to collect and report daily teacher, student engagement, or attendance. So we are going to focus on student attendance and come up with procedures to ensure that daily attendance is taken. I know at the elementary level, it's usually done in homeroom, and reported absences are usually reported out from the schools via a robocall. I'm sure you've all gotten them to basically say, oh, your son or daughter was absent today. We anticipate that same process will happen. We'll have to, certainly play around with the times and make sure we understand exactly when teachers will be taking attendance. But if at any point in time, you get a robocall that says your child was absent and you know that that's not correct, please don't be too upset. We'll be doing some trial and error on this, and we can certainly change the attendance settings if we get it wrong on any given day. But we are going to be doing a process to collect daily attendance every day for students. The next couple of slides are going to explain what the New York State governor has said with regards to opening school. The last two major news conferences he had. The first one was July 13th, and where he announced how schools will be reopening by a formula. And it basically says if our region, whenever the Mid-Hudson region was in phase 4, and the entire state of New York is currently in phase 4, including the city, so that's okay. And the daily infection rate remained below 5% on a 14-day rolling average, the district in that region can reopen. I think our infection rate was at or just slightly below 1% last time I looked. And of course, if our infection rate goes higher than 9% of our 7-day average, the governor's office will order schools in our region to close back down. But on the August 7th news conference, the governor said, of course, all schools across the state can open, certainly with all the constraints as identified, though, with social distancing and whatnot. And the next couple of slides in here are going to highlight bullets from or quotes from his actual conference, a news conference. And this is a clickable link up here at the top as well. In the title slide, notes from New York State Governor's Address. The recording is done by ABC News and it was posted on a Facebook site. That link will be clickable when this presentation goes on our website. And you'll be able to hear all the things that he had said, and as well as the pieces that we pulled out of it for this presentation. And the hope is that at least to some degree, when we go through these next couple of slides, you'll get an understanding as to why we made the decision that we did to do full remote learning starting in September. So the governor acknowledged that there's significant level of anxiety and concern between parents and teachers. He also said that, hey, I want the district to do. He said, I want to do 2 things, but he listed 3 things. 1, post a remote learning plan online. 2, post the student testing plan. So a student and staff testing plan, really. So how are we going to health screen staff and students as they come into school? And how will the district do contact tracing within the school? Will we ask for local government help, or will we do something on our own? So he said, I want those specific components of plan specifically posted, and to have the districts have at least 3 opportunities for parents to participate in a conference with the district. So we're providing 15 conferences, 15 options we want, and then we're going to have a 16th option for students with disabilities, parents, students with disabilities to be posted sometime either this week or next. We're just trying to lock down a date for that and a time that'll work best for everybody. So it'll be additional one for them as well. From the address, he's like, I want districts also have at least 1 meeting with teachers and administrators to discuss their concerns with the plan to reopen. And this is where it sort of got interesting. And then in the 3rd bullet, we talked about we want, the 2nd bullet, I'll just say that he wants our remote, in general, districts. We want our remote learning plan to specify how we, the districts, are going to address our equity issues from the spring. So the governor was just talking about what he had heard in terms of equity issues with students in remote learning, some districts having better experiences than others. How do we make sure that we're going to meet the needs of all students if we're doing remote or hybrid? So then the governor was asked a question by a reporter about how do we test for asymptomatic staff and students coming into the school? And his response was, one of the top 5 questions I'm asked is, how do we prevent asymptomatic people from infecting other people in schools, similar to how people got infected in nursing homes? And the New York State governor's response was, some school districts have a better answer than others. It's up to the local district to come up with a plan. Yes, temperature taking is concerned. Test a child who has a temperature, but what about asymptomatic spread? How do you detect asymptomatic spread when the only way you can detect asymptomatic spread is when you get sick? He goes on to say, but that is a very good question, one that the local school districts have to answer. Now, when we heard that, we were taken aback a little bit because, we're in the business of education. We're not medical professionals. And so certainly we were under the impression that we had to do a health screening of some sort where schools needed to take into account everyone coming in. Did you have your temperature checked? And did you have any other affirmation statements about symptoms that you may or may not be having before coming to school? And we can collect that and take action upon that as necessary. But at no point did we really anticipate that we would have to come up with some sort of COVID test for asymptomatic people. We're not being given COVID test kits. We're not a lab of any sort. So we're not sure how to deal with that particular piece. So we're hoping that we'll have some additional information from the county's Department of Health and as well as any other information or ideas that are being shared with the other county school districts and the other counties around us as well, as a superintendent speak and talk about what they're planning to do for that. So that definitely made us take pause and think about how large we are and our responsibility to make sure that those who are coming to our building are not just symptom free but virus free, and we don't have a good answer for that at the moment. 2 more bullets on what he also said. The last one, you need to do 2 things to open. You need 2 things to open school: students and teachers. Students you cannot force back, and you don't want to get into a legal battle with the teachers. They cannot teach if they do not feel safe. You cannot order a teacher into a classroom and tell them to teach if they don't feel safe. I'm telling you, there's going to need to be significant discussions. They, meaning the teachers, raised important issues. They need to be comfortable, and that goes for everybody. We have a lot of students. We have a lot of staff in our district. We have a lot of parents who are very concerned, and we don't have all the answers to some of those questions about how do we test everyone coming into the building. And again, that kind of made us take pause. So we are unique in the county in terms of our size. There are 13 school districts in Dutchess County. The smallest is Weebatuck. Weebatuck is the northeast corner of Dutchess County, and it has 653 students, grades K to 12, compared to Wappingers, who has 10,645 students. So we're a large district, and to get a sense as to what our other districts, fellow districts of similar size are doing, we had this chart put together where it shows districts in Westchester, Orange County, Ulster, Dutchess, Putnam. Any district that was kind of bordered us a little bit and had at least 6,000 students in it was what our superintendent was going for when he was getting this information. And with the exception of White Plains, Clarkstown, and Haverstraw, every one of those districts will be starting off similar to us with remote learning, followed by a phased-in hybrid learning plan. We will certainly be watching White Plains, Clarkstown, and Haverstraw very carefully as they begin their school year on a hybrid learning model. Now, the next thing we're going to just talk about is, what does the instructional delivery timeline look like? So I'm going to step away from the presentation for just a moment and click this link. And this link will be clickable for you too when the presentation is available. And this is going to bring us into our instructional delivery timeline. Let me zoom in a little bit. And you can see here as we're talking about grade 4. We're talking about all students grades K through 12 starting on September 10th with remote learning. September 10th is the new date for instruction. We have a board meeting tonight where we anticipate the Board of Education will be reviewing our calendar and the request to add 2 professional development days. And we'll talk about what the professional development days are going to be The teachers are coming in the week of the 1st, and they're doing 3 professional development days prior to Labor Day weekend. And originally the students were supposed to come in on the 8th. Now we're asking that they come in on the 10th, so we can do 5 days total professional development for our staff, followed by this timeline of transition between remote and hybrid. Now it is subject to change to some degree, but just know that starting September 29th, so the week of the 28th, the 29th, the 20th is actually a designated school holiday. So the 29th, we'll be bringing in K1 and 2, and then we're going to assess how the reentry process goes for those students and the staff. And then the following week, we'll have grades 3 and 4 coming in starting the week of October 5th on a hybrid schedule. We'll show you what the hybrid schedule looks like as well, followed by grades 5 and 6, 7 and 8, and all of high school. So high school has its own challenges because of how they change their class periods, and how do we effectively clean classrooms in between every class period change. We definitely need to take a little more time and make sure that we have a tight process for that. So regarding when we split into a hybrid model, you may have already heard, students will be divided up into 2 cohorts, cohort A and B, based on alphabetical last name. So students whose last name begin with A through K will be in cohort A. Students who begin with last name L through Z will be in cohort B. This is just about 50-50. I mean, it works out with this breakdown, A to K, L to Z for most of our buildings. And because we could do some buildings A to L and M to Z, but the way this works out is, as long as we need to make sure that students are going to school across all our grade levels at the same time, so that way families who have students who are in high school as well as elementary, junior high and high school, junior high and elementary, they all are all leaving the house in the same day. We got that message loud and clear from our families, so we have to make sure that we do everything consistent across the board. But exceptions can be made. So if you are a cohort A group, you'll be coming to school every Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday will be remote learning for everyone, as well as a deep cleaning day for the building. Thursday will be remote for cohort A, Thursday and Friday, and then just the opposite, cohort B will be remote Monday, Tuesday, and in-person Thursday, Friday. Exceptions will be made, so we understand that A to K and L to Z does not encompass everybody. We know that there's households with multiple last names, and so we'll just make a request to your building principal just to say, hey, this is what we really need, and we'll be sure to accommodate you, no problem. So as we go into our reopening categories, so from their survey, we had all these different categories that we asked you to ask questions of. As the first one we'll talk about is teaching and learning, but then everything after that are pretty much alphabetical. And hopefully we'll be able to answer a lot of questions that you guys, that the community had put forward with regards to all of these different categories. And the first one will be remote learning and hybrid learning, and I'm going to turn this over to our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Dr. Michelle Cardwell.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome again. So we're going to spend some time talking about teaching and learning through the remote learning and the hybrid model. So we do know that the district is not able to conduct a full in-person instructional model at this time. We don't have the space to do that. So when we do enter all our grades into a hybrid model, bringing back those families and those students that choose to come back with the hybrid model, we're giving consideration to possibly bringing in early grades, additional time rather than the 2 days. Students with disabilities, bringing back some of our neediest students to definitely 2 days, possibly more, as well as our English language learners. So we will continue to look at our needs of our students to see how we can increase in-person instruction for our students on a need basis. So if all goes well, we will continue to increase the number of days our students can come to person, meeting all CDC and Department of Health guidelines. It is important that we balance this with equity for students, really looking at the capacity of our school buildings, adhering to social distancing, making sure we have appropriate PPE, and definitely taking into all of the learning considerations for our students. So all of our students will begin remote learning in September, and we will use the phase-in model that Mr. Lokema already mentioned, starting at the end of September, beginning of October. We will continue to monitor our hybrid model and our phase-in process to make sure that we are meeting all guidelines, that our social distancing protocols or PPE or cleanliness, all of our guidelines are being met and instituted, making sure everything is working well. We will also make sure that we provide specific information to scheduling of students and the virtual resources that will be used. We will provide families and students with this information prior to the start of school. Teachers will also reach out to students and parents via their Google email addresses and or by telephone to provide them with details pertaining to logging into the remote instruction. We understand that this may be a challenge for some students, and the teachers will work on providing all families with adequate communication in order to get remote instruction started. We will also schedule parent workshops that will provide information to parents on the virtual resources that will be used. We know, especially with the younger grades, the students will need a lot of support in logging in, using the technology, and we are prepared to help support families in assisting their children throughout this process. If there are specific details to a school, a class, or a teacher, please address those specifically to the building principal, as they will be able to provide you the name of your teacher and or some other information you may need to know specific to your child. But this information should be sent to you within the next couple of weeks. So what will remote learning look like? We do know that the state has told us that schools need to provide synchronous instruction to students. We need to make sure that there's an increased level of engagement between the teacher and the students. We also know that through our summer programs that we held here in the district, through our ESY and our secondary summer programs, where we have included a daily synchronous instruction, that we have had some positive feedback. So we are taking everything that we've learned from our summer programs, taking the feedback that we have received from the spring remote learning, and we are in the process of finalizing what synchronous and asynchronous learning will look like for our students at all of our grades. We do know that we are providing schedules for when students will be required to log on to live instruction. So the district feels that it's important that we provide norms and uniformity and consistency across grade levels with the expectations regarding virtual and remote learning, as well as the hybrid model. We also know that New York State is mandating that we provide regular and substantive teacher and student engagement throughout the learning process. And we also know we need to take attendance on a daily basis. So with all of those things pointing towards the amount of synchronous versus asynchronous learning we will provide, we know that this may cause some scheduling conflicts between students and families with their number of devices, or if there are several subjects that are scheduling live instruction at the same time. So we are in the process of creating those schedules to avoid as many conflicts as possible. But should there be scheduling conflicts, each school will work with the families on each of those unique circumstances to troubleshoot. So when we do have synchronous learning, if you are experiencing conflicts, if your children are experiencing scheduling conflicts, please contact your school. So specific information on student schedules will be out within the next week or so, the end of August, definitely the beginning of September. We are in the final conversations of scheduling the live instruction. We are having these conversations in collaboration with the Wappingers Congress of Teachers, as well as the Wappingers Administrators Association. We are also in the final process of discussing grading at the elementary and secondary levels. We do know that many parents are concerned about grading at the secondary level as it pertains to students' GPA and ranking. So any system that we do move with will take those considerations into light. So as Mr. Lokema mentioned, we had in our original calendar 3 professional development days the beginning of September. We are adding or hoping to add 2 additional days. That is to ensure that our staff are ready for all of the guidance and regulations for opening schools. Specific to health and safety, we will be providing support to our staff in setting up classrooms and designing instruction to adhere to the Department of Health and CDC guidelines. Information on how to open classrooms in a virtual and remote learning environment. Really reviewing the health and safety guidelines so everyone is aware and understands the expectations. What are the expectations and rules for the classroom, for common spaces, for your special area subjects? What are the routines and structures when we are conducting our fire drills or our safety drills and adhering to guidelines? So prior to bringing students into the building, we need to make sure our staff is comfortable with all the regulations they are expected to follow. So addressing teaching and learning and social emotional learning are 2 other areas that we're providing professional development to all of our staff in. We're identifying the norms, uniformity, consistency, and expectations around teaching and learning. We are providing support to teachers on how to conduct formative assessments in a remote and hybrid model, as well as how to plan for small group differentiated instruction. Once again, supporting teachers and staff in conducting fire and safety drills, providing support around teaching strategies with the remote model or the hybrid model, lesson planning, identifying the standards, but also integrating SEL into the curriculum and daily lessons as appropriate, as well as conducting social emotional learning lessons in isolation as needed also. There were many questions on athletics and extracurricular activities. We do know that the New York State Public High School Athletic Association has informed all districts that the fall season is scheduled to start September 21st. This was pushed back from August. We are expecting additional update to come out to inform us whether or not that date will stand as is, and fall sports can begin on the 21st, or if they're pushing back the date. So we're still waiting to see if there is any additional guidance. We do know that fall regional and state championship events have been canceled at this time. So we do know that with any extracurricular or athletic activities that there are social distancing guidelines that we must consider. We also know that we value that extracurricular activities are important in developing well-rounded students. But we will phase in extracurricular activities as appropriate. It will be done slowly. Each activity will be reviewed at the building level by building administration to determine if and when the activity will resume in person or if it should be done remotely. Concerts and theater productions, tentatively, will not be held during the first semester, that's September to January. A decision to allow for concerts and theater productions to be held during the second semester will be made in January. All this is subject to change depending upon the status of the district and the region. Will there be music, band, chorus, and orchestra? The answer is yes, but depending upon the school, the locations for these activities may vary. Schools can place their ensembles in the auditorium or in the cafeteria. where there is space for students to safely distance for 12 feet. We will have spots on the ground for where students can stand. Students will face in the same direction. Students will not share music or instruments or stands. And we can even, in some instances, break the ensembles into smaller groups, depending upon the space that's available. So we do have the teachers. They will continue to work on looking at each of their classes and sections that they have and plan accordingly. So in physical education, if there is strenuous activity, we need to maintain a 12-foot social distancing guidelines. And our physical education teachers and our athletic department are really working on making sure that students will attend PE as often as possible outside, weather permitting. And when they are inside, developing appropriate activities with designated spaces for students to sit and move, to adhering to all guidelines. We will also make sure when students are outside that we are cleaning the playgrounds as appropriate according to CDC guidelines. And you will notice that on this side, like we will clean the grab bars and the railings. They will be cleaned routinely, but certain items will not be cleaned, or it is not recommended that they be cleaned, such as the mulch or the sand or the wooden surfaces. And Darren, I'm going to place myself on mute and turn it back over to you at this time.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, so the next few categories, again, it should be in alphabetical order, no particular order of importance. Just alphabetical. Talking about child nutrition, kids can bring in their own lunch. I know that this was a concern, but obviously, if we're not going to be using the cafeteria to the greatest extent possible. So for the most part, we're not going to use the cafeteria in the normal lunch type of schedule. So we have to be aware of students who might have food allergies. So if food is being eaten in the classroom, students might be bringing in peanut butter and jelly and sandwiches. And we know that we have a number of students who might not be able to be around peanut butter. We need to be having building level conversations about how they're going to manage where students will eat if we have a food allergy. So more information will come from our building administrators. There will be a limited menu every day. And by limited, we just mean we're going to offer one meal. It'll be a hot meal or a cold meal for breakfast or lunch. The options will be listed on our menu, but there'll be no additional a la carte items like there have been in the past. Sometimes it's sandwiches or salads or chicken nuggets or something like that. Those will not be offered. Just the actual hot or cold breakfast and lunch item, and it'll be served in a grab and go type of fashion. Milk will be, at least what we were saying at first, milk will be the only offering for sale in terms of besides breakfast and lunch, but we had a question about whether or not we have accommodations for students who have allergies to milk. So I'm just double checking with our food service director to see what else we can offer in addition to milk. I mean, obviously we'll have water, but to make sure that there is some sort of other offering to be able to deal with any issues of students who can't have the milk option. But there'll be no snacks, no novelty items like ice creams or anything like that for sale until further notice, unfortunately. For days when students are remote learning, whether it be during hybrid instruction or if they're 100% remote at home and they are deemed eligible for free and reduced lunch, they will qualify for a grab and go lunch or breakfast at a curbside pickup location. So, which is not going to look any different, really. There'll be more details provided for that, but it won't look any different than what it did in the spring. This past spring, where we had a number of locations where families can drive up and grab the free reduced lunch and/or breakfast as part of their daily, food service program that schools afford families every day. There was a section on communication, family, and community engagement. There's a variety of questions here, so we highlighted 4 of the most common answers. School schedules will be available in Parent Portal for all schools by the end of August. Once schedules are available, you'll be notified via phone, email, and text that they're ready for you to review. Parents, if you are unfamiliar with the Parent Portal login process, go to wappingerschools.org. At the top of our website, there's a section for parents. Just clicking on parents should bring you to the parent resource page that automatically talks about Parent Portal. It talks about how you can create an account, reset your account, access the account, and the like. So if you are looking at your student record and at your child's record in Parent Portal, usually for elementary schedules, you would normally get your parents, your next year's teacher on the report card at the end of the previous school year. This year, if you just look to the right of where you'll see the student picture, there should be something that says homeroom teacher or HR teacher. Just look for the name there, and that'll be the identified teacher for your child for the school year for grade 4. Will be, and if you're a secondary parent, it'd be the same thing. Just look at the schedule, look for the schedule tab, and on the schedule tab, you'll see the full breakdown of the schedule. So once those are ready, we'll definitely send something out for that. Knowing that we're going full remote and then supporting hybrid learning, we're going to be doing another round of Chromebook requests. We have about 1,000 more devices to loan out. That'll pretty much empty out all of our schools. We still have a whole bunch of devices that were loaned out in the spring to our families. So anyone who didn't graduate or leave the district, they still have those. And we're going to do our best to get rid of, to loan out all the ones that we have available until we don't have any more. And then unfortunately, we were trying to get more and purchase more, but companies like Dell, which are our main suppliers for the devices, said that they won't have any to ship us until probably January. So there isn't much inventory out there for us to even buy to make up the need. So in school, there'll be fewer devices to use, if any at all, in certain schools. But at home, hopefully, we'll have enough to accommodate all online learning. There'll be online meet and greet opportunities created for principals, faculty, and staff to meet with parents and students throughout the month of September. This will be in addition to regular synchronous learning opportunities. We did have questions about what face-to-face learning opportunities might be had. We'll keep our options open and see what we can do, and more to come on all of that. And the parent forum survey, the results from that survey will be posted on our website when the survey is closed. I suspect the survey will be closed this week, and we'll be posting it on our website shortly after that. Health and safety is obviously a big topic. There's a number of questions that came up in here. A number of them dealt with airflow. Typically, our ventilation system draws in 10% of fresh air from outside at any given time. Our facilities department will increase this fresh air intake to between 20 and 30%, so long as the weather stays seasonably comfortable. I saw a question pop up. No, regarding laptops, they don't, unless I don't think we'll be able to require them to bring laptops to school every single day, because not everyone will have we won't have enough school laptops to give out to those who don't bring one, and those who can bring one might not have a district provided one, and their parents might not want them to bring a laptop from home that's a personal use. So it's probably not going to happen. Restroom cleaning, there will be higher frequency of cleaning of our restrooms throughout the day. More custodial staff will be hired to achieve this. General cleaning, Wednesdays will be a deep cleaning day. When our students are when they're doing online learning all day Wednesday. In addition, the district has purchased disinfecting machines, which will be utilized in our schools on a daily basis. These machines spray a mist of disinfectant on all surfaces. Secondary cleaning between class periods is very difficult. I think we kind of alluded to that earlier. Especially at the high schools where the students change periods and they don't all travel in the same directions. So we got to figure out how period by period cleaning is going to look. Currently, there isn't enough product that we can order to allow for staff and students to wipe down the surfaces as they enter the classroom. Not that that's really a common practice that we would condone, but we don't usually try and have students handle cleaning products. Even if we wanted to, at this point, our facilities director is saying that that's not possible at this time. Contact tracing. So we're encouraged at the fact that Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health, which we refer to as Department of Health, is working with all of our county schools to come up with a unified plan for contact tracing. We look forward to seeing that plan, and we will certainly share that plan as soon as it is available. Asymptomatic cases, we talked about that earlier. We're hoping to hear some further guidance on this from the Department of Health on how to deal with asymptomatic cases. We don't have a great plan for identifying and health checking asymptomatic people. We'll have our daily health check, but the governor didn't seem to think that taking daily temperature was sufficient. And certainly if someone is asymptomatic, we wouldn't know just by a temperature check. Symptomatic cases will have to follow the protocols outlined in our district plan, which includes isolating students who become symptomatic as they're in school, and then following a certain number of protocols out once they're picked up with regards to going to the doctor, getting tested, and determining when it's safe for them to come back into school. So there'll be that part of the plan is fairly well documented. Daily health screenings, mentioned that we're going to do daily health screenings for staff and students. It'll be done at home via an online application called Easy Screen. This application has been used in schools for years for concussion protocol screening for student athletes. So we're comfortable that this tool will work for our families. The company is adapting their application for COVID-19 daily health screenings. So there'll be more information on that as we get that implemented. Additional risk mitigation factors under health and safety, to answer a number of questions that came up on that. Hand sanitizing stations will be available in every hallway of every school. Masks will be available for everyone who needs one, either because they forgot it, lost it, soiled it, broke it. We will have additional masks on hand to hand out. We're going to put a lock on the water fountain bubbler, the button that you hit that makes the stream of water come out. We're going to put a lock on that so you can't actually use a water fountain in that fashion, but most of our water fountains now have bottle fillers. So the bottle fillers are essentially hand-free, and those will still continue to work. We will open windows to the extent possible, weather permitting. Provide extra soap dispensers in our restrooms. It's kind of an odd thing, but it turns out that the students like to rip those off the wall. So we'll make sure that we install some extra ones there. We're going to disable our hand dryers in the restrooms, as we have been told that the blowing of the air for those hand dryers may cause the spread of germs. Our nursing staff will have extra PPE available. Kitchen serving lines and greeter desks will have those Lexon shields, which is basically the plexiglass type shields, but made of a different material. Ventilation system monitoring will be ongoing. We talked about ventilation systems before. Student lanyards and photo IDs are being considered for our high school students. Those have been requested, and we're looking to try to implement those. And we're going to remove any soft surfaces that are difficult to disinfect, such as area rugs or soft fabric chairs. Excuse me. Social distancing from a classroom perspective, we're going to be providing, the mathematical formula is this: length and width of the room, subtract any square footage taken up by furnishings, figure out, divide the rest of the space after you take out for furnishings by 44 square feet per person, which will allow everyone to have a 6-foot perimeter of socially distant space, as well as 3 feet of personal space. And then obviously one or more of those spaces need to be reserved for any adult in the room, a teacher or an instructional aide if necessary, because everyone has to have the 6-foot perimeter, 6-foot social distancing between each other. Our classrooms themselves range in sizes from 600 square feet to 1,100 square feet, depending on the school, grade level, et cetera, or how old the building is, and what the capacity requirements were of classrooms at the time. So what we're finding is that in most classrooms, we can fit anywhere between 10 and 16 students, depending on the size, and that we're going to have to basically evaluate all our spaces and make accommodations as necessary to ensure that we can have the classes come in on the hybrid schedule that we've already designated. When I think it was already mentioned by Michelle, when there are vocal activities, chorus, wind instruments, or any kind of aerobic activities, the social distancing space does expand to 12 feet. So overall class sizes will have to be reduced to accommodate all safety parameters with this factor in mind. Students and support staff will be required to wear proper face coverings to the greatest extent possible. So we are going to ask that people wear masks most of the time. I say most of the time, but we'll have to take breaks every now and again, and we'll schedule those breaks and figure out where to have those breaks, as well as during lunchtime when kids are eating. Obviously, no one can wear a mask while you're eating, so that's not going to work. But whenever possible, special area teachers like art and music and any kind of student support staff will travel into the classrooms, especially thinking of K-6 and where that's possible, to help prevent groups of students going into shared spaces. Social emotional learning was a big category. We talked about that previously. I am going to start going a little bit faster in the presentation because I do want time to answer a few questions at the end that may have been posted into the chat. The district, so we provided all these bullets basically that answered a lot of the questions that came up in this category. Staff will become trained We'll get more training prior to the start of school. Each district already has support staff designated to meet the needs as required for students. We've created community partnerships with mental health providers and agencies to assist families when needed. We'll be creating family workshops throughout the year for students and families to address common concerns. We will be also looking into curriculum, embedding curriculum in terms of how to do social emotional learning and embedding those curriculum pieces within our existing curriculum as well, and purchase any programs as necessary to help enhance the curriculum that involves social emotional learning. Special education is a very, very, very important topic. I'm going to go through the slides fairly quickly, though, knowing that we have a parent forums focusing on special education that we scheduled the next couple of days. So we'll send out another blast notification notifying parents of the special education parent forum. So some of this stuff may be covered there, as well as additional information, I'm sure, will be included, and a lot more questions will be answered, hopefully, at that time. So once again, though, when school opens September 10th, any evaluations and assessments will be done, and any meetings that need to be had will be held virtually, but certainly in person when it's absolutely necessary to do so. One of the key things is going to be trying to work out how to write our IEP goals, the individual education plan goals, for students in a way that we can allow those supports and accommodations to pivot between in-person and remote learning. As for the most part, a lot of the goals that were written in the previous year did not lend themselves well to remote learning because at the time they were written, we never certainly had to think that we would ever be in that situation. But we know that we need to make sure that we can create plans that we can actually execute, given the fact that we might be remote or in person. As Dr. Cardwell already said, we had our traditional summer school as well as an extended school year program over the summer delivered completely online. And there was a lot of lessons learned there in terms of, and also best practices created that will significantly improve the synchronous and online learning experience for our students come September. They're going to be taking the best practices learned. And while we know it's not a substitute for in-person learning, it was reported to be significantly improved from the spring experience. So we're hoping that the fall experience will be a significantly improved learning model online compared to what we were able to deliver in the spring. This is a little bit more of the same. I just written slightly different, obviously, and we are talking about students with IEPs as well as 504 accommodations. Related services, speech, OT, PT, counseling will be done virtually whenever possible. When it is in person, there'll be, all service providers will be wearing appropriate personal protective equipment. Clear, transparent masks for speech therapists and other professionals as appropriate. And then if students need to require transparent masks in order to receive the services, they'll be provided that as well. And so we understand that a lot of students with disabilities are unable to learn remotely at all. So when it's possible for us to return to in-person learning as per the schedule that we put up, if we have to bring in students with disabilities and higher learning needs in more often than 2 days a week, we're going to try and do that, so long as we have enough space in the building to keep that social distancing when we do return to in-person learning. If you have any questions or need to speak to anyone about your child's IEP or 504, please be sure to contact the assistant director for your child in the school to discuss further. Similar with students with our English language learners, we're going to continue to provide services for them, as well as looking at ways that we're going to ensure that our academic support and response to intervention process continues. We have a cycle of assessing students' needs based on academic performance, and identifying deficiencies and addressing those deficiencies through the use of academic supports, additional time with reading specialists, for example, additional time with a math coach, and pull out, push in services. Those services are hard enough to provide when students are in class and the schools are operating normally. And it's certainly harder to provide them remotely, but we're going to do our best to make sure that We're able to differentiate our instruction to students as needed, and that students will be using various resources to ensure that they're keeping up with their peers to the greatest extent possible. Through that means we still have to do progress monitoring on the skill deficits that students have. We're going to be doing that throughout the year, and we're going to have some of the training that we probably have to do with teachers is to ensure that they're able to do that in a remote learning environment. All right, the last section, I got 10 more minutes, and then I should be able to get through this in a few minutes, and then hit some of the questions that you have in the chat. How are you going to be able to provide ventilation and social distancing? We're talking about on the bus. Both the State Education Department and New York State Department of Health guidance states that windows and roof vents should be open whenever possible, as long as weather permits. We are going to route school buses with 22 students on a large bus. That's basically one student per seat. This number can increase slightly as siblings are allowed to ride in the same seat together. Private and parochial schools, if they're open and we have students going to them, we will provide transportation. If they're open every day, we will bus the kids. If they're open every other day, we'll bus the kids. Whatever their schedule is, we legally must provide transportation for those students to those schools, whether it be St. Columba, St. Mary, Lourdes, Oakwood Friends, whatever it is, we are going to provide the busing as we would normally. Why do you have to limit number of students on the bus is what I think I mean. If students wear masks, both the State Education Department and New York State Department of Health guidance documents state that students must be socially distant and wear masks when on a school vehicle. Some kids will be medically excused from wearing a mask, and obviously in that situation, we're going to have to provide additional distance between those students on the bus without a mask and the riders who will be wearing one. So we'll have to make sure that we have enough socially distant space in between students who don't have a mask and those who are. We're hoping that that'll be a very small number, though. Will there be a late bus? That's really going to depend on if there are after-school activities, obviously. So the late bus option will be reviewed as after-school activities get phased in. Parents asked if they drive their kids to school someday, but will they still have the option to take the bus on occasion? Yes, absolutely. The bus routes will be what they will be. You will have a designated bus stop and a bus pickup time and drop-off time and location. Those will be honored every single day, whether you ride them or not. Are schools taking school bus transportation, getting their temperature screens when they arrive at school? Initially, we're thinking no. We know that we want people to do the health screening ahead of time before they get on the bus. We're not sure what's going to happen now, knowing that the district has to provide some sort of screening for asymptomatic people, and going off of what the governor had said. And so we'll have to provide any kind of update to that in regards of testing once those directions are clear. If we drive our students to school, we're the protocol for pickup and drop off regarding social distancing. Arrival and dismissal, everyone's wearing a mask. Traffic will be probably a nightmare in some schools. There's a lot of people who are planning on driving their students to school, and that's fine. But just we ask that we give us a couple of days to assess the traffic patterns and make adjustments as necessary. Certainly schools with small parking lots like Fishkill Elementary, for example, will be very difficult to get in and out of. It's difficult to get in and out of on a regular school day, much less if we have issues with transportation, excuse me, issues with more people driving students in and out of school. Are there going to be strict consequences for kids who don't follow social distancing or mask wearing on the bus? Will there be monitors on the bus? There will not be monitors on the bus. We do not have enough staff to serve in this capacity. We would have to hire at least 150 people to do that, and that is just not something that we're able to do at this time. So unfortunately, that will not be the case. There are cameras on the bus. We will certainly be spot checking cameras to make sure that policies and practices are being followed correctly, but we're also going to rely heavily on the bus drivers. The bus drivers are going to be the ones, just on any other day, who are reporting misconduct or dealing with misconduct. If they need to report misconduct to the building principal will then deal with any kind of disciplinary issues that come up with that. But we certainly are going to take this matter seriously and deal with it as it comes. Are there going to, since we're going by last name, how long will kids be on the buses? We anticipate the bus runs to be similar to what they normally are. Just remember that, so we're doing the same bus runs, we're just scheduling the stops differently in terms of a cohort schedule, but they're going to follow the same runs generally to get to all the same houses, so along the way, all the same stops. So we're hoping that the bus runs will be very similar to what you're typically used to. All right, it is 5:55. I'm going to stop sharing this presentation, and I'm going to get out of, I'm going to go over to this other document where hopefully we were gathering information from the chat. We have about 170 people on this conference call right now, so maybe we'll have some decent questions in here. I'll take a few minutes to go through that and see what we got. Okay, not too bad, not too many. So let's see. For those who choose to continue with remote learning after October 5th, will it continue with the same schedule and teacher as September? The synchronous part is the trickiest part. We contract through Dutchess County BOCES to have our, hopefully you guys can still hear me. I think you can. We contract through Dutchess County BOCES to have our internet service provided, but the front door to the world for us is at Dutchess County BOCES. And what Dutchess County BOCES says is we may not have enough bandwidth for all of our teachers to broadcast out of the classroom at the same exact time. And it's not just a matter of buying more bandwidth, there's hardware issues as well, and they might not have enough hardware replaced or upgraded in time to even accommodate it if we wanted to. So that's a little bit tricky. Ideally, the answer would be yes, and anyone at home would continue to just be able to receive synchronous instruction while the teacher is talking in the classroom. But we have a little bit of a technical snafu there where we're going to have to look through, see what we can or can't do. Let's see, school scheduling. When will the final calendar for the year be available? Particular decision about the start date. It should be after tonight. The board meeting is tonight. They're going to discuss the calendar, and if any changes happen, we'll certainly send out a communication notice to our community for that. Since childcare is a major concern among parents, will after-school programs like the one at East Fishkill Elementary be allowed to operate once the hybrid model begins? Good question on the hybrid model. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. Certainly not when the remote model starts, but in the hybrid model, let me get back to you on that. All the questions that are asked here, we're going to be providing answers. Hopefully within the next 2 to 3 days, we'll post the answers on our website. The hybrid option is optional, will be mandatory. We're going to allow parents to opt out for full remote for one marking period at a time. That is the current plan. Last year, I had technology issues as the programs apps used are not always compatible with my computer. Has that changed? I'm sorry to hear that. Most of our stuff will be online based, so it shouldn't be about installed applications. Anything Chrome based, we're going to do a lot with Google Classroom, online tools that basically will function in Google Chrome as a browser should work fine. So I would stick with trying to use that as your browser of choice. Let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Hold on a second. Instruction balances. When we will get a list of school supplies or what we need to start school in September? That's a great question. I mean, so the school supply list, we haven't even bought all of our regular supplies, knowing that school has been, you know, the mantra has been, how much do we make sure that we don't waste money, spend money on things we're not going to use? So that's a great question. We'll be sure once the teachers are assigned, maybe they already have their lists already ready and ready to send out. I'm going to hold off on answering that because I don't know the answer, but it won't be long after you already find out where your schedules are, would be my hope. Since childcare is a major concern, oh, no, that one's a repeat. Let's see. That's kind of it. Scrolling through, not too many questions. Is there anything else? Let's see, is Michelle, Dr. Cardwell, do you have anything that you want to add before we close up? When a teacher is live streaming a lesson in the hybrid model, will students be visible or audible in the background? Usually when they're doing, if the teacher is just live streaming themselves, they might, and they usually are using Google Hangouts to do that. Teachers or the students and participants generally have the ability to see each other. So generally speaking, we use Google Hangouts, and that's the default of what is allowed. I'm sorry, Dr. Cardwell, do you have anything you want to add before I?
Nothing to add, just to thank the participants and to remind them that we will be answering all questions we did not answer today, and we will be posting them on the website.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Let's see if I got one or two more here I can grab. Let's see, you're going to be tested and help with new learning. Speech therapy has not been effective. Any questions about related services, or maybe that we could save that question for when the special education parent forum happens. When we first see the survey results, I think will be done. I think we'll have them out by the end of the week. Whenever we decide to close the survey, people are still responding to it, actually. So we're still getting feedback from them. When a teacher is live streaming a lesson in hybrid, oh, I answered that one already. Okay, so like Dr. Cardwell said, we will go through all the questions and provide answers and write them up and list them all on our website. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us. Feel free. We'll be doing 5 more tomorrow and 5 more after that. Come back as often as you like. And other than that, everyone have a wonderful night.